Good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on this Monday. Boy, I mean, I'm telling you, a little breezy outside, but my goodness, what a pleasant afternoon otherwise. Abundant sunshine, temperatures in the 70s. It's very nice. The news cycle, however, today is not very nice. There is a great deal of information that is now floating around about the alleged pictures that come from the manifesto of the Covenant shooter. Now, look, you have police saying, I can neither confirm or deny these are authentic. You have, I think, the city attorney now saying, we will neither confirm or deny. FBI is having no comment. What you're not hearing, and what you almost will always hear in a situation like this, is if the things were not authentic, somebody would say, no, don't go there. These things are bogus. And none of that has happened. You can't find that anywhere. I noticed here today a statement from the mayor, Freddie O'Connell of Nashville, saying, look, I've directed Wally Dietz, the Metro Law Director, to initiate an investigation into how these images could have been released. So, and we have several stories where we're confirming that an investigation is now underway into how these documents, got released. Well, you don't conduct an investigation into documents being released if they are inauthentic documents. You only begin the investigation if they have released something that you did not want them to release. So, look, Matt Murphy has what he says is a source that he 100% trusts. Michael Patrick Leahy over at the Tennessee Star has confirmed through his sources. I do not have independent verification of it, but I am I've been around long enough to know that you will always get waved off. If somebody will wave you off if you are barking up the wrong tree. So we're going to go forward with the assumption that these are real, legitimate documents. They certainly appear to be authentic, and I believe that we would be well served to go forward with the belief that they are authentic. So what do they say? Well, I mean, it is ugly. I mean, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I'm going to try to characterize it in some ways. The shooter seemed to have a great resentment for the school and the people who went there, the students who went there, calling them crackers, talking about things that she resented about them. I don't know what to do here. She calls herself Audrey in this manifesto, but she was often during the times just before this happened. Sometimes she would go by Audrey, and sometimes she would go by Aiden. I'm just gonna try to not let that be the focus of what I'm talking about here. Called them crackers. Seemed to resent them for the advantages, the economic advantages they have. Made comments about the clothes that they wear and the backpacks on their backs and their daddies driving Mustangs and convertibles, etc. She seemed to really resent the economic advantage that some of these kids had. You could call that maybe wealth envy. I don't know. Though she was struggling with issues of his or her gender, she tosses around terminology that is universally viewed as being reprehensible. It's a term for gay people that is completely out of line and would not be used in any kind of polite company. Hate, anger, vitriol. I mean, the anger and the turmoil within this individual's mind was so evident in the things that were written that it's hard to understand how this individual did not, come under the attention of authorities. I mean, we know for one thing, we know that this individual was undergoing some level of therapy at the time of the shooting. Who was the therapist? What kind of therapy was it? And how is it that if there was so much anger just bubbling out of this individual, so much hate, How could you not want to, maybe alert authorities? Why didn't somebody get flagged is always the thing that I come back to. Because it should have been pretty evident, it would seem. There's another thing that catches my attention is he or she, however you want to look at her, talked about being almost being caught. Been planning it apparently for years, at least a couple of years, and said, I can't believe this day is here. So many times I almost got caught, especially back in 2021. Well, what was that about? What was the thing that happened that in Audrey Aiden's mind made a belief that that was about to all come unraveled? I want to know that. I think that's really, really important information to know. And then there was apparently, even though we were told, well, the parents thought you didn't have any guns, but apparently they recovered a lot of guns. Apparently this individual had access to a lot of guns. The question is, where were they? And the indication is that they might have been stored, I don't know, maybe in a locker. I don't know where, but the individual apparently had a relationship with a local shooting range. And because this is how sick the individual was, gave a moment-by-moment plan of the day that included everything that was going forward. I mean, there is nothing about this that makes this individual look like a normal, rational individual. It should have been quite evident to anybody who was paying attention to this individual that there was deep resentment and hatred that might bubble out in some other ways. And how it could not be picked up by any qualified therapist, to me, is hard to understand. So I think you need to understand another thing is this is a glimpse. This is only a small glimpse. It's 3 pages out of one notebook that was found in the car. Now, this is what we have come to describe as the manifesto. And it does talk about, give us some indication into the motivation, although it's hard to understand. There's no rational motivation for this on any level. But it does give us some window into some of the things that were driving the thinking of this individual prior to the shooting that claimed the lives of 6 innocent people. And again, I can't understand how it is that somebody, parents, friends, therapists, people at the shooting range, nobody picked up on any of this. Nobody picked up on any of this. It's that's concerning. But you need to also understand, as I said, it's just a glimpse, 3 pages out of one notebook that apparently were taken at the scene by detectives, snapshots that were taken in the early moments of the investigation. But we are told that there are many, 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 many more notebooks. And then they were found at the house. And they go back maybe many years. We also know this individual was at one point a student at the school. Is the anger that Aiden Audrey felt aimed at the children and the parents? Was that somehow the motivation of something that happened when the shooter was a student at the school? Did something happen there that caused a resentment that this individual carried for years and years, finally unraveling at the end and committing unspeakable acts? So many things that this raises questions about, but I want to know what you think about this at 615-737-9986. Do you have? Are you glad that you have read it? Do you feel like you have learned anything? Did it inform you in any way? Are you decidedly upset that these documents have now been released? I'd like to know your thoughts. If you have them, we'll get to you in just a few moments. Let me just read through a few things that have been written about this so far. Again, from the mayor, I've directed Wally Dietz Metro's law director to initiate an investigation into how these images could have been released. That investigation may involve local, state, and federal authorities. I'm deeply concerned with the safety, security, and well-being of the Covenant families and all Nashvillians who are grieving. Metro Nashville Police Department authorities say they are unaware of the situation. They are unaware of the veracity of the documents. This coming from News Channel 5. WSMV says investigation underway after release of alleged Covenant shooters' writings. Well, if there's an investigation underway, it would be into documents that were valid. You do not investigate something that is invalid. This incident, the mayor said, naturally invokes additional emotional trauma. While an investigation has been launched, the mayor's office could not apparently independently verify the images released. This all came from Stephen Crowder, a host of the Louder with Crowder podcast, and apparently they came in contact with someone who had these documents, these pictures, and they actually traveled to Nashville to meet face-to-face with the individual and before going forward with this. Here's from the Post Millennial. A leaked manifesto reveals the Nashville's trans school shooter had a violent hatred of the little crackers with white privilege. First obtained and released with Louder with Crowder. The 3-page handwritten document shows Audrey Aiden Hale meticulously planned their last moments in the mass school shooting. The manifesto, written in a spiral notebook, had various screeds and thoughts scrawled down by pen. There was one that said, "This is Death Day. The day has finally come. I can't believe it's here. I don't know how I was able to get this far, but here I am. I'm a little nervous, excited, been excited for the past 2 weeks. There were several times I could have been caught, especially back in the summer of 2021. Now that none of that matters, I'm an hour and 7 minutes away. I'm ready. I hope my victims aren't. Ready to die." And I think, if I'm looking at it correctly, said that followed by a ha-ha notation. So a lot to unravel here. And again, these documents that have been long sought and we want to see them do not answer all the questions. I think we need more of the documents to know exactly about this person. It has been observed by some, Phil Williams over at Channel 5, who says, you know what, these documents, we are told, perhaps don't give a complete picture. I'm paraphrasing here, because this individual didn't just hate students at the school or hate the parents of the students at the school. This individual hated everybody, had wide-ranging hate issues. With that much anger, with that much vitriol, with that much, spewing of vileness that is written down on paper, how in the world was it that nobody, parents, friends, somebody, pick up on this in advance? And this, I come back to this because it seems every time we have one of these tragic shootings and we start to find out what motivated it, what we often find is that there was somebody along the way who saw the signs, who knew that something was up, and knew that this individual bore some watching. But, in this particular case, nobody raised the flag as far as we know. Listen, the phone calls, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Now, and by the way, if you have not seen the documents, I'll tell you what I've done. I put every story I could find about this at yourfarb.com, URFARB.com, and you can go through them if you choose to. And if you have chosen to read these documents, I'd like to know, what is your thinking? And again, are we well served by the release of this documents, I think, is the question. Right now, 21 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Now, Dr. Mitchell in the Wellness Institute of Nashville, they're very thankful in this month of Thanksgiving, and they want to celebrate the month by helping out and doing something that may help you. They're taking this 2023 special that they've been doing for the last year, and they're doubling it, making it twice as good. 2 new patient appointments for $23. In other words, 2 exams, 2 x-rays, 2 treatments for your spouse, your friend, your family member. Just to have them join you. The appointments must be booked together, but that's a real deal. I mean, look, half of $23. You've got that on you, and if you're in pain right now, there's no real excuse not to examine this option. They've got this non-surgical spinal decompression. If you have anything in your back that hurts, tingling and numbness, a weakness, a back pain, a disc bulging or disc herniation, or maybe you've heard somebody use the term spinal stenosis to describe your situation. Well, this non-spinal decompression can certainly help you. It's helped me. I mean, I had problems with my neck and had problems with my lower back, and I don't have those problems anymore because I went there, I had the treatments, and I am changed because of them. It starts with a phone call, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
My name is Shannon Jefferson. I was cross-addicted, crack cocaine, and heroin. I OD'd 4 times. Well, 9 times in all, but in this instance, 4 times in 2-month period. It's not a second that goes by. It's not somebody that you call or talk to. This program really helped me to get my spiritual man back. It's like I'm a man again. They taught me how to really be a man. You can help. Anybody can help the missing out and save one. That means a big deal. Because for me, it wasn't just helping my life. It affects my whole family. They feed the homeless, they give clothing. Nothing goes to waste. Everything helps when it comes to mission. I mean, words can't describe how much I feel deeply about this mission.
We'll tell you more about what we're learning about an alleged leak of the Covenant school shooters' manifesto and former President Trump on the stand today in the civil fraud trial against his business and drew some reprimand from the judge. We'll tell you about it 3:30 Super Talk, then at 9:07 WTN.
Well, these 3 pages from the so-called manifesto have been leaked and published. WTN has sources that say that they are authentic Our friends over at the Tennessee Star have sources that have confirmed the authenticity of the documents. And in fact, there is an investigation underway now by police and by the legal department in Metro Nashville to find out how they got leaked. You only conduct an investigation like that when you are actually, the documents, if they were inauthentic, there would be no investigation. A glimpse, a small window into the demented mind of this individual. Apparently, several callers have suggested that perhaps the close call that the shooter wrote about in 2021 what may have been when her parents found that she had guns and told her to get rid of them. Obviously, she did not get rid of them. I don't know. Maybe there's some more to be learned about that. Is it a complete picture? No. Is there much more to learn? Yes. And this is why I've always been on the side of making sure that the documents on some level got released. There are some legitimate reasons not to release part of this, like the planning that was done, because there were several targets that were considered. On my reporting, I've been able to confirm that one of them was the Opry Mills Mall. That was one thing that the shooter thought about, as a target, but apparently walked away thinking that the security was too good there and wanted a softer target. So again, there's a lot more to be learned here, and I understand the desire to keep some of it back, but I mean, I do think that we have an obligation to understand the situation better. The governor has said he thinks there needs to be transparency. State leaders have said there needs to be transparency. If you want us to go and try to pass laws that, based on what we learned from this situation, perhaps we need to know a little bit more about it. Let's take a couple of phone calls. Brian in Nashville. Brian, you're on with Brian Wilson. What's your thought on this?
Well, I'm not a doctor or anything, but she had to be taking a whole lot of medication to change her body and stuff. Do you not think that the chemicals and stuff change her, her thought process and her mind? I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm saying you put something in your body that's not, normal. I'm just saying. So you think about that.
Well, and this is what many people think is the reason that they don't want to release it, that there's some sensitivities, about this individual's desire to change gender or consider gender changes. Is that the therapy the individual was going under? And if so, did it have an impact? Many people think that's why they don't want to release it, or at least the rest of it. Jason in Smyrna. Jason, you're on with Brian. What's your thought, Jason?
Well, I have two real thoughts. Number one, there's nothing in those 3 pages on the journal that should be shielded from the public. You're not going to understand a psychopath most times. One of the unique things that I see in that particular timeline is the fact that it was so detailed, down to military-type precision of from this time to this time, and the fact that there is a notation there to make final video.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about that for sure, yeah. I agree.
And what goes into that may be more of a clue as to really why this individual did what they did.
We have never heard anyone mention a video. I've never heard anybody mention a video. And if there was a video, I think it would be helpful to understand what this individual said to camera. I don't know that we need to release the video, but I'd like to know more about it. Well, listen, we'll come back to this story. There's a lot of other news that we need to cover throughout the day, but we'll come back to it in the next couple of hours. You're listening to The Drive. It's now 3:30.
331 Mac Maury with your top story. 77 degrees in Music City. Traffic and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Breaking news concerning these alleged photos from the Covenant school shooters manifesto that were released today. Channel 4 has just said that MNPD says these are not crime scene photos. MNPD says these are not photos from the crime scene, which was what was alleged today after Steven Crowder conservative social media talk show host released these 3 images. Crowder says the short source that shared these photos with him is from within Metro Nashville Police Department. And Channel 4 says that the attorney for the shooter's parents claims he's unable to authenticate what is on these photos of pieces of paper. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell has ordered an investigation from Metro Legal to see how these photos were released. The person who killed 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults that day left behind at least 20 journals, a suicide note, and a memoir. And tension in the New York City courtroom today, where former President Donald Trump was testifying in his civil fraud trial involving the Trump Organization, in which he's charged with fraudulently representing the value of his real estate portfolio. Trump was verbally attacking the judge and speaking out of turn, leading to the judge to raise his voice and ask Trump lawyers to, quote, control their client. Later in the afternoon, things inside the courtroom were said to have quieted down. Aaron Katursky on the earlier part of the day.
He was being asked about his properties and his real estate empire and how his properties were valued. The judge admonished him to be more concise. And at that point, his attorney, Chris Kise, stood up and said, well, maybe the state should be asking more direct questions. And they went back and forth. And once the judge started, yelling, sit down, he didn't want to hear political speeches. He said, this is a courtroom. It's not a political rally. But the former president is clearly using this opportunity, this legal opportunity, to press a political argument.
And Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, says that the judge predetermined that her client committed fraud before ever entering the courtroom. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
So how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management, well, they understand that it can be scary, up and down, up and down. But here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call, 615-488-9303. Now, you can grab a pencil if you missed that, because I'll repeat it again here in just a moment. The experts at Beacon will get some information from you, and they'll take it from there. You have nothing to lose in this whole process except for the worry. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all of your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com. It is 38 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. We do have an official statement from the Metro Nashville Police Department now with regard to the images that have been making their way around the internet regarding the Covenant school shooting. The MNPD is in communication with the Metropolitan Department of Law as an investigation began this morning, continues into the dissemination of 3 photographs of writing during an online discussion about Covenant School. The photographs are not Metro Nashville Police Department crime scene images. Does that mean they just weren't taken at the crime scene, that they were taken later? If you see some of the pictures, you could see a hand holding the documents that have like latex gloves, like they were handling it as if it were evidence. The police department has been in contact with the representative of Covenant families. Police department counselors are available to assist them in coping with the emotional trauma caused by the dissemination. Well, again, let me just sort of decipher this and read between the lines, as you have to do sometimes. They're in communication with the Department of Law as an investigation begun this morning and continues. Well, again, you don't investigate something that's inauthentic. And then the statement that this didn't come from a crime scene. Well, that doesn't mean that they aren't authentic. That doesn't mean they weren't taken back at headquarters, taken, by detectives who were going through and looking at the evidence. And it doesn't have to be at the crime scene to be authentic. But one way or the other, I don't see anything in this statement that says they're inauthentic. And again, I think they understand they're in a bad situation. I'll give you this. They're in a bad situation in that if they confirm, well, they're in trouble with the courts because there are lawsuits pending and these things are supposed to be locked up. So if they confirm that these are the documents, and then if you say, well, okay, you're not going to confirm it, will you deny it? And by denying it, they are indeed confirming. So they're going to neither confirm or deny. But the statement indicates that there's an investigation underway, and then they put out the caveat, these didn't come from the crime scene, but that does not mean that they aren't authentic, that they could have come from some other part of the investigation. And maybe this was a document they found at the home, which would not be the crime scene. One way or the other, I don't see anything that, that says we shouldn't consider these documents to be authentic. I want to move on to some other things very quickly in the time that I have allotted in the rest of this hour to talk a little bit about 2 things that are going on. One is for Biden. It is the impeachment inquiry, which is ongoing with the House of Representatives. Over the weekend, we got some reminders. James Comer was out there saying things that he'd said before, but saying that they are very close to putting this all together, continuing to remind us about 2 checks, one for $200,000, one for $40,000, that went from the accounts of James Biden and his wife into the account of Joe Biden back when he was a vice president. Now, was this, and they were able to trace the money before it got to James Biden's account, and they know that it came from certain unsavory sources that were a part of the business dealings of Hunter Biden and his cadre. So the money came from CFCEC, the Chinese company that has connections, by the way, to the leadership of the Communist Chinese Party. It came from them. It went to a bunch of different shell corporations, and then eventually made its way into James Biden's bank account, a personal bank account. And then checks were written in the terms of $200,000 one time, $40,000 the other, to Joe Biden. And that's very, very close to being able to prove, that there was some pay for play going there. Do they have it locked up? No. Do they still have documents outstanding? Yes. Are they going to try to, put this thing together soon? Well, it appears that they are now prepared to move from an impeachment inquiry into an actual impeachment in the House of Representatives that could be coming soon. This is from CNN. House Republicans are prepared to enter the last stage of their impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden, with committee chairman focusing on a remaining list of high-profile interviews and starting to strategize over a final report that will likely include criminal referrals and serve as the bedrock for potential impeachment articles. But even as their endgame comes into focus, it's unclear how long the effort will take or whether House Republicans leading the effort will be able to convince enough of their GOP colleagues that Biden himself committed any high crimes or misdemeanors, a key hurdle that they have to overcome. So it's getting down to the end of the investigation. By the way, there will be an appearance this week behind closed doors of special counsel David Weiss. And it has to do with, some of the questions that they have about whether or not there were attempts at the Department of Justice to prevent him from going forward, as has been alleged. So I think that will be very interesting, and again, give you some indication of where the case is going. On the Trump side of the equation, he continues to undergo this trial in New York. Former President Trump, according to Fox News, traded jabs with New York Judge Arthur Engoron as he testified on the stand Monday morning during the non-jury civil trial stemming from New York Attorney General Letitia James' lawsuit against him and his businesses in the state. It got pretty heated, apparently. Trump said the statements were, they started out talking about documents, and Trump said that the documents that the banks paid much attention to. Wallace asked how he knew that. He said the former president had been dealing with banks for 50 years, and they look at the deals. We'll explain it as the trial goes along. Crazy trial. Engoron, though, said Wallace was being patient but wanted the question to move along faster. Please just answer the question, no speeches. And then it just started to unravel at that. The judge got into it, and the judge finally told Trump to answer the question. And Trump said, and Engoron said, you can attack me as much as you want, but please answer the question. Trump testified that he authorized and gave preparers information that was necessary for those statements. I'm probably more expert than anyone else, so someone would ask me if I had an opinion, I would give it. So it again, got pretty testy today. Trump denounces what he calls a very unfair trial. And at one point, the attorneys for Trump were told, can you control your client? This is not a political rally. I mean, that's how ugly it got. Look, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. Again, things that don't matter. What's going to happen here is that you're going to hear testimony from people who say that when it comes to deciding what properties are worth, and that's all this trial is about, the prosecutors are making the case that Trump was trying to do everything he could to inflate the values of his properties. It's a subjective thing. I mean, I have a property. If I decide I'm going to put it up for sale, it is my subjective opinion what I think that's worth. You put that into a document. Does that mean that you're lying? No, it means I think that's what this is worth. You may have a different opinion, but these banks are not stupid. These banks are not dumb. They have the ability to go and say, you know what, we can't accept this. We can't give you the loan because we don't agree with your valuation. Nobody did that. Nobody was harmed in this thing. That's the thing. And so, Trump can decide whatever the value is. And if the banks don't agree with the valuation, they have the option of saying, well, we're just not going to be able to make this loan. They made the loans. They didn't have a problem with anything they saw. They saw the deal, and they knew the value of the properties, and they didn't feel that giving loans would put them at risk because if everything went south, they could claim the properties that were put down as collateral. Well, I'm telling you right now, if you know anything about banks, they're not going to make something that's a bad deal for them, and they're not going to not do their due diligence, which they did. So I've never thought this trial had much to it. I think it eventually will all fade. But it's really interesting because these two things, the impeachment investigation of Joe Biden and now these various trials that are ongoing, I think they're all pretty thin, quite frankly. But they're burbling in the background of the 2024 campaign cycle. Now, and I'm going to tell you in the next hour, I'm going to show you some numbers that are going to blow your mind. They certainly have caught the attention of the Democrats. This was not a good weekend for Joe Biden. Information came out about some polling data and how people view the coming campaign that look really, really bad for Joe Biden and really, really good for Donald Trump. So, if any of these things are having an impact, it would seem that perhaps the impeachment is having more of an impact than the trials that Donald Trump is going through. The more you throw at him, the stronger his support becomes among people who want to vote for him, Republicans and others. I mean, and who are the others? You're not going to believe it. But let's save that for the next hour. 50 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock. Hey, listen, a note from Johnny Fleeman over at Legend Steakhouse. He wants you to know that on Veterans Day, which is upcoming, that veterans eat for free at Legend Steakhouse. And boy, I tell you what, it's for lunch or for dinner. It doesn't matter. A dinner, man, wouldn't you like to have a good steak tonight as you're headed home? Maybe you think about doing that on the way home. But they want you to think about coming to see them when maybe you're hungry for lunch. Yeah, they have a meat and two thing. Yeah, that's right. Meat and two sides. Well, here's the meats: fried pork chops, smoky mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow cooked pot roast with gravy. And the sides, well, 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. And this is good old country cooking. Broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes, potato casserole. It's just like the kind of stuff your mom used to make. And in fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed them over 30 years ago, and, well, he just never gave them back. Legend Steakhouse has multiple locations across Middle Tennessee. Listen, it's good food at a fair price. That's what you're going to get there. If you're in Davidson County, check out their Smyrna location, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Go to legendsteakhouse.com to learn about all the locations and to maybe do some online ordering if you want to do that. A local Tennessee company, been around for some 34 years. You're going to enjoy your next visit to Legend Steakhouse.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
A Tennessee news source has now confirmed the authenticity of images that were released today that were said to be of the Covenant Shooters Manifesto, a hit and run in Tennessee, plus former President Donald Trump testifying in a civil fraud trial today. That and more at 4 right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is interesting that Fox 17 had not reported on this throughout the morning, and now that they've posted their first story, it starts off saying that they were able to authenticate the documents. So Mac Maury will have more coming up in the newscast. Looking at the markets today, Dow Jones Industrial up some 34 points, the S&P up 7, NASDAQ up 40 thus far. All screens are green. Not a great deal of movement in the green direction today. But as John Maxim will tell us from Beacon Capital Management, the last few days have been pretty positive for the major indices.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. It kind of continued today. It was a little bit calmer compared to last week, but green is always good. The market added to last week's gains, and of course, a lot of this has continued to be the market momentum around the markets believe that the Fed might be done raising rates and the cooling jobs growth that we got last week. One of the things this week's going to be interesting to watch is there's going to be several other folks that are involved at the Fed. They're going to be coming out and speaking. It's going to be interesting to see if their narrative supports the same as Chairman Powell last week to add fuel to the fire that he may be done. Also has some earnings from Disney this week, but so far so good. All screens are green, as you said, and continued momentum from last week.
All right, thank you. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. Coming up in the next hour, some 2024 numbers that will be very troublesome for Joe Biden. It's straight ahead on The Drive.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Sunny, 76 degrees on Music Row, a traffic report, and our weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, we are still learning more about 3 photos released today by conservative talk show host Steven Crowder on social media that he claims to be our pictures from the Covenant School Shooters Manifesto. Fox 17 has just come out and reported saying that these photos of the writings are authentic, and they confirmed their authenticity through a source of theirs. The Metro Police Department here in Nashville just came out and said that the photos are not from the crime scene, but they did not deny whether or not the images were authentic. These photos have still not been officially verified. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell has now launched an investigation with Metro Legal into how these images could have been released. Wally Dietz, Metro's law director, came out and released a statement saying, quote, "I cannot confirm or deny their authenticity of the documents due to the existing lawsuit." Patrick Michael Leahy, CEO of Star News Digital Media and the Tennessee Star, came on WTN's The Matt Murphy Show to discuss how quick new information may avalanche.
I think this is going to move fairly rapidly now that these three have been released. The first question is, are they authentic? We're going to hear something from Metro Nashville Police Department today. They've been very reluctant to comment on it. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, contacted today by Breitbart, no comment on it. But I think they're going to have to put something out. They're either going to have to confirm or deny.
And the person who killed 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults that day left behind at least 20 journals, a suicide note, and a memoir. Right now in Tennessee, News 2 says that officials are trying to identify a driver who hit and killed a man. It was on Saturday, October 7th, that 59-year-old Roy Allen Pierce was hit and killed on Central Pike near Old Hickory Boulevard. Video footage shows the driver of the SUV hitting Pierce, then turning around and heading towards I-40. Pierce was taken to the TriStar Skyline Medical Center, where he died. And tensions in the New York City courtroom today, where former President Donald Trump was testifying in a civil fraud trial involving the Trump Organization, in which he's been charged with fraudulently representing the value of his real estate portfolio. Trump was verbally attacking the judge and speaking out of turn, leading the judge to raise his voice and ask Trump's lawyers to, quote, control their client. Later in the afternoon, things inside the courtroom were said to have quieted down. Aaron Katursky on the earlier part of the day.
He was being asked about his properties and his real estate empire and how his properties were valued. The judge admonished him to be more concise. And at that point, his attorney, Chris Kise, stood up and said, well, maybe the state should be asking more direct questions. And they went back and forth. And once the judge started, yelling, sit down, he didn't want to hear political speeches. He said, this is a courtroom. It's not a political rally. But the former president is clearly using this opportunity, this legal opportunity, to press a political argument.
And Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, says that the judge predetermined that her client committed fraud before ever entering the courtroom. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. And for hour number 2 of The Drive, I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, your FARB, if you will, here to bring you news and information you can use. And we got a lot shaken today. As we've been telling you, 3 pages from the Covenant shooters' so-called manifesto have apparently made their way online. Fox 17, just a few moments ago, they didn't post anything all morning long, said that they had verified the authenticity of these documents from their source. These came from the manifesto of the shooter of the Covenant School. Of course, there's been a big legal fight over all of this, tied up in court for, coming up on a year here in a few months. And so it was, something of a surprise to see these things come out today. They open a brief window, sort of a very narrow view of what was on the mind of the shooter, and it was ugly. It was hateful and just full of vitriol and spewing nastiness every step of the way. And so we have covered that in the first hour, and we will come back to it in the 5 o'clock hour in a bigger way. But that is the latest information that now, we have a source through Matt Murphy who confirms it. And then we have a source from the Tennessee Star who has confirmed it. And now Fox 17 says they have independently confirmed it as well.
And right now, Brian, just wanting to let you know, live on Channel 4, there is a news conference being spoken on these alleged writings that were released, and it's the attorney for the Covenant families speaking right now.
Can we take some of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's go into it now.
It's hard to put into words what that pain has been like. And days like today only increase that already heavy burden. So how did we get here? Parents and families came together to prevent this exact moment from happening, to prevent the re-victimizing of our children, and prevent further trauma to our families. Because we knew that these writings, these thoughts from the shooter were heinous. We knew that they were evil. Just today, I've received numerous phone calls from fellow parents, upset and afraid to even look online at the images that are going all across social media. The damage done today is already significant, and I'm worried it's only going to grow. With the release of images of these disgusting writings, what have we learned? Have we learned anything new? Have we learned anything we didn't already know? Did we not already know that this was a deeply disturbed individual who was detached from reality? One more evidence was needed. She shot her way into a school and killed 6 defenseless lives. We already knew that she was deeply and emotionally distressed and in need of help. That's not been added to by these images that we've seen today. And so now, a community, a school, families who have already suffered so much, we're left yet again to deal with this terror. And so a couple of very specific points. To the online shock jock who aired these images, I would challenge him and anyone who amplifies them online. Just be a human for once. Quit seeking clicks and retweets and platform building. And I would say specifically, any sort of profit or revenue that was generated by this, a naked display of platform building, any of that money should go directly to the 6 families. Or it should go to the Covenant School to help pay for the security that is there each and every day trying to make sure our kids are safe. Because that's another contention that we parents have had. These writings do have the ability to inspire further attacks. And not just on us, on other communities. We saw this in Allen, Texas, where that shooter referenced the Covenant shooter. How many more people have to be killed in a senseless way so that you can get clicks? And lastly, I want to speak directly to the person who took these images and released them. You are a viper. You're a member of the law enforcement community. And you have released evidence that was gathered in our most vulnerable moment. You have now allowed this woman who terrorized our family with bullets to be able to now terrorize us with words from the grave. How could you? What kind of a person does this? I've had a number of conversations today with Metro Police, the TBI, others. Metro has assured me that this is a felony. That the person who did this will be brought to justice, they will be arrested, and that absolutely has to happen. And the vast majority of our police officers have obviously on that day shown incredible bravery, and since then they have shown incredible kindness to us. And I am so thankful for those police officers who have waved at our children, who have said how grateful they are for the prayers that our families have prayed for them on so many nights. And so this doesn't reflect you in law enforcement, whether it's Metro, TBI, or some other member of law enforcement. This is not you. This is someone who is in your midst. So I just want to say to that person, I will commit to praying for you, that you will reveal yourself so that justice may be done. And in the Christian life, repentance is key. Repentance means that we turn away from our evil ways. And I'm praying that's exactly what happens here. This individual will turn from the evil that has been perpetrated on our families and realize the wrong that they have committed. And my hope is, my earnest hope, is they will find renewal in a person called Jesus Christ, who we at Covenant, at Woodmont Baptist, and at so many of our churches around here that have been praying for our families, for our children, know to be true. That He is the way, the truth, and the life. And for this individual, even though I believe justice must be done in this moment, that is the way he will truly be set free. I'll take a couple questions.
Are you indeed confirming that these are the writings that the parents saw?
I'll let Metro and any other law enforcement who have far superior capabilities in terms of technology to be able to answer that question and ascertain that.
And then the law enforcement person that you referenced to, are you saying that that person is indeed law enforcement, or was this a citizen that?
I don't believe the hill was secured very quickly that day. I believe that this is a member of the law enforcement community.
Mr. Leatherwood, thank you for your strength.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask you.
All right. Well, you were listening to Brent Leatherwood, who was one of the parents. The parents very upset about the release of the documents, and it's an emotional time for them. One can understand. Again, the first question that was asked is, can you verify the authenticity of these documents? Various news organizations have, through their sources, have confirmed it. Fox 17 has now confirmed it. Our Matt Murphy has a source that he says he 100% trusts, and I trust Matt Murphy. So he says that person has verified the authenticity of the documents. The Tennessee Star has a different source that says they have gotten the documents verified. So, and again, one just not conduct an investigation when documents that released have nothing to do with the case. If they were fraudulent documents, you would expect that law enforcement would say these are fraudulent documents. They have not said that, and they will neither confirm or deny. But the fact that they don't wave anybody away from it suggests that, of course, these are real documents. I think we can just sort of move past that discussion. But understandably, the parents are very upset. There is a lawsuit ongoing at this very moment to try to decide whether or not the parents and the church have any standing in this matter under the law. It's a FOIA request that many organizations, including police officers, have asked for. There's a police organization, various news organizations have asked that these documents be released so that we can have a complete understanding. The governor believes that they should be released because he believes the transparency is important in this situation. Our state legislature was called into special session to talk about this matter, but decided that they would not be able to really do anything about it, lacking the information that was contained in some of these manifestos. So, while I appreciate what the parents have said, and certainly one heart goes out to them for the loss that they've suffered and the wounds that this must reopen, but we have to also understand there is a public interest at play here, and in the past, these documents, under normal circumstances, would already be released, would have happened a long time ago. And we would be well past this situation that we're experiencing today if it had been done in a timely fashion, as is normally the case. Well, we'll be bringing more on this. Is there anything else you want to add to it, Mac Morey, that he's getting ready for the newscast? Anything else you need to add there, Mac? Everything...
Yeah, right now, still gaining info. Listen to this right now. I'll have more to add here at 4:30.
All right, sounds good. Well, we had to change because breaking news changes everything. We had to change our plan here. Let's go to commercial break, and we'll reset 21 past the hour of 4 o'clock.
My name is Shannon Jefferson. I was cross-addicted, crack cocaine, and heroin. I OD'd 4 times. Well, 9 times in all, but in this instance, 4 times in a 2-month period. It's not a second that goes by. It's not somebody that you call or talk to. This program really helped me to get my spiritual man back. It's like I'm a man again. They taught me how to really be a man. You can help. If anybody can help the mission out and save one, that means a big deal. Because for me, it wasn't just helping my life. It affects my whole family. They feed the homeless, they give clothing. Nothing goes to waste. Everything helps when it comes to mission. I mean, words can't describe how much I feel deeply about this mission.
More information coming out on these alleged documents from the Covenant shooters' writings that were released today, and a Covenant parent comes out and speaks on the release as well to news. We tell you all about it. 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Clearly, this is not exactly what we thought we'd be talking about today. This came out, I think, overnight. We now know that these documents, are under investigation. I mean, it's a weird dance that you have to do sometimes in the news business, where you call up the police department and say, well, these documents, are they authentic? Well, they can't confirm that. They can't on the record confirm that because there's a lawsuit, and you can't not violate the strictures that have been laid down by the courts. So you can't confirm it. You can't deny it. But I can promise you that years and years of experience covering police issues over many places and very many different times, you almost always will go off the record for a moment and you get waved off. That's right. So can we go off record for a moment? Yeah, I wouldn't go there if I were you. You need to walk away from this one. And if you have good relationships with good sources, they will always do that for you. Well, that's apparently not. Have you heard anybody who says that these documents are inauthentic? No, you haven't. So I think, at least as far as I am concerned, I'm going to go forward as these documents being authentic. Then they've been confirmed by a number of different news organizations, including our own. So Matt Murphy has a source, and he believes that those are the completely authentic. Source in a position to know. Matt Murphy says he trusts the source 100%. So that's that. And then again, the family members saying that they're going through a bunch of trauma. Family members would have been told, for certain they would have been told by police sources, because they said they talked to the police sources today. They would have absolutely been told these did not come from the shooter. Well, they went forward with a press conference. Nobody told them that, and they went forward. So there's that. So many different reasons why I think we can just sort of walk away from this whole thing of, are they real or are they not? Now, the other question is, do they give a complete picture? And no, they do not. This was one notebook. This appears to be the notebook that was found in the car the day of the shooting. But back at the shooter's home, there were many other notebooks that were found, all said to be spiral notebooks, all said to contain the writings of the individual going back many years. And Phil Williams over Channel 5 in his conversation with his sources said that, that the documents that have been released may be misleading only in this way, in that they don't show the depth of how much hatred this person had. In other words, hatred for, apparently everybody, is the way Phil Williams put it. So, we are learning a bit more. I don't think this is by any stretch of the imagination comprehensive, but even in the 3 pages, there are at least 10 questions that get raised. And we'll get back into that, I promise you, in the 5 o'clock hour. And coming up in the next half hour, we're going to talk about these numbers that came out over the weekend that, if you were Joe Biden, it was not a good weekend for you. And it was a pretty good weekend for Donald Trump looking at these numbers. We'll talk about all of that, remarkable numbers, coming up after the news. It is now 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
Thirty minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Got a full weather forecast, the latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Right now, 75 degrees in Music City. Right now in Tennessee, Steven Crowder, an online conservative content creator, released 3 images of what he claimed were pictures of the Covenant shooters' writings today. They depict hatred towards white people, particularly wealthy white people. Fox 17 says that they have confirmed these writings to be true through their independent sources. Our own WTN's Matt Murphy says that his source, of whom he trusts 100%, also says that these documents are legitimate. The Nashville Metro Police Department has not yet confirmed whether these photos are authentic. They did come out with a statement this afternoon saying that the images are not from the crime scene like some had thought, but did not deny that they were accurate images. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell has now launched an investigation with Metro Legal into how these images could have been released. Wally Dietz, Metro's law director, made a statement neither confirming or denying the authenticity of the documents. And Covenant dad of 3 Covenant school students, Brent Leatherwood, came out today and spoke on the legitimacy of these alleged writings.
I'll let Metro and any other law enforcement who have far superior capabilities in terms of technology to be able to answer that question and ascertain that.
And he said that whether these images are directly from or just inspired by what the shooter did, he said either way, this release is apprehensible and shows exactly why him and other Covenant parents took legal action against these writings ever being released. Leatherwood also went on to say that Metro Police has assured him that whoever did leak these images will face a felony charge. He said, quote, "Our families and parents are still committed to doing everything we can to make sure that none of the rest of these see the light of day," end quote. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like somebody tells you, "Oh yeah, I'll be there at a certain time," or "It'll be ready at 4 p.m." and it's not. Well, people are really tired of that kind of stuff. If you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, why don't you come to Eurofix? Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really supposed to be ready, so you're not standing around and waiting. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. And that's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead. That's a lot of money. So why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead as loaner cars are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. Eurofix, family owned for 24 years. Call this number, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. 37 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair. Listen, we will get back into the Manifesto story at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, but I've got a lot of stuff I need to cram into this particular segment as we look at what's happening in the 2023 and the 2024 elections. Let's go to that. Listen, this was not a very good weekend for Joe Biden. I mean, really, honestly, if you're Joe Biden and you look at with the story that came out of the New York Times, this is really devastating. It basically comes off of some polling that they did, and here's the headline. I'm actually got the New York Times story in my hands. I don't normally read from the New York Times to you because it's definitely an organ of the left, but that's why this is so interesting. This is the left trying to give Joe Biden a shove out the door. And I'm gonna read a lot of this because it gives you an idea of just how bad things are shaping up for the re-election efforts of our current president. President Biden is trailing Donald J. Trump in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states 1 year before the 2024 election. Suffering from enormous doubts about his age and deep dissatisfaction over his handling of the economy and a host of other issues, new polls by the New York Times and Siena College have found. The results show Mr. Biden losing to Mr. Trump, his likeliest Republican rival, by margins of 3 to 10% among registered voters in Arizona and in Georgia, in Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Mr. Biden is ahead only in Wisconsin by 2 percentage points. I mean, there are red states. I mean, okay, look, we know Trump's going to win in a state like Tennessee, where Republicans outnumber Democrats by a significant number. We know that in a place like my old home state that I lived in for a while, Maryland, you know that in Maryland, the Democrats are going to vote for Joe. But it's the purple states. It's the battleground states. And there are 6 that are sort of swing states that can go either way. And understand that in 5 out of those 6, Trump leads by, in some cases, pretty good margins. And the story continues. Discontent pulsates through the Times Siena poll, with a majority of voters saying Mr. Biden's policies have personally hurt them. The survey also reveals the extent to which the multiracial and multi-generational coalition that elected Mr. Biden is beginning to fray. Demographic groups that backed Mr. Biden by landslide margins in 2020 are now far more closely contested, as 2/3 of the electorate sees the country moving in the wrong direction. Voters under 30 favor Mr. Biden by only a single percentage point. That's remarkable. His lead among Hispanic voters is down to single digits. His advantage in urban areas is half of Mr. Trump's edge in rural areas. And while women still favor Mr. Biden, men preferred Mr. Trump by twice as large a margin, which reversed the gender advantage that had fueled so many Democrat gains in recent years. Black voters, long a bulwark for Democrats and for Mr. Biden, are now registering 22% support in those states for Mr. Trump, a level unseen in presidential politics for a Republican in modern times. Added all together, Mr. Trump leads by 10 points in Nevada, 6 points in Georgia, 5 in Arizona, 5 in Michigan, 4 in Pennsylvania. Mr. Biden has a 2-point edge in Wisconsin. It's a remarkable sign, the New York Times writes, of a gradual racial realignment between the two parties. The more diverse the swing state, listen to this, the more diverse the swing state, the farther Mr. Biden was behind. And he led only in the widest of the 6 battleground states. The world is falling apart under Biden, said Spencer Weiss, a 53-year-old electrical substation specialist in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, who supported Mr. Biden in 2020, but is now backing Mr. Trump, albeit with some reservations. I would much rather see somebody that I feel can be a positive role model leader for the country, but at least I think Trump has his wits about him. Good Lord. Okay. If the results of the poll were the same next November, Mr. Trump would be poised to win. Are you ready for this? Listen closely. If the results in this poll were the same next November, Mr. Trump would be poised to win more than 300 Electoral College votes, far above the 270 needed to take the White House. Another ominous sign for Democrats is that voters across all income levels felt that Mr. Biden's policies had hurt them personally, while they credited Mr. Trump's policies for helping them. That's an amazing thing. The results were mirror opposites. Voters gave Mr. Trump a 17-point advantage for having helped them, and Mr. Biden an 18-point disadvantage for having hurt them. Mr. Biden turns 81 later this month. Being the oldest president in American history, just stands out as a glaring liability. Over 71% said he was too old, an opinion shared across every demographic and geographic group in the poll, including a remarkable 54% of Mr. Biden's own supporters. In contrast, and only 19% of the supporters of Mr. Trump, who is 77, viewed him as too old, and 39% of the electorate overall. Only 39% of the electorate thought that Trump had that same problem. Concerns about the president's advancing age and mental acuity, 62% said Mr. Biden does not have the mental sharpness to be effective, are just the start of a sweeping set of Biden weaknesses in the survey results. Voters, by a margin of 59 to 37% margin, said they better trusted Mr. Trump over Mr. Biden on the economy, the largest gap of any issue. The preference of Mr. Trump on economic matters spanned the electorate, among both men and women, with those with college degrees and those without them, every age range, every income level. Here is one other thing I want to leave you with from this article. Voters under 30, a group that had strongly voted for Mr. Biden in 2020, said they trusted Mr. Trump more on the economy by an extraordinary 28 percentage point margin after years of inflation and now high interest rates that have made mortgages far less affordable. Less than 1% of poll respondents under 30 rated the current economy as excellent, including 0 poll respondents in that age groups in the 3 states of Arizona, Nevada, and Wisconsin. It is not good. On immigration policy, voters preferred Mr. Trump over Mr. Biden by 12 points. On national security, Trump led by 12 points. On the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, by 11 points. And though a 58% majority supported providing more economic and military aid to Ukraine, which aligns with Mr. Biden's policy, that did not seem to benefit the president on broader questions of fitness to handle foreign affairs. Finally, today, the degree to which voters are turned off by Mr. Trump's personality and bombast, which has been the glue helping keep together a fractious Democrat coalition for years, appears to have waned. Only 46% of voters said Biden had the proper temperament to be president, which is barely higher than the 43% who said the same of Trump. That said, Mr. Trump will be in the spotlight this year because, well, it's the New York Times. They had to throw something in there because of the trials that are pending. I don't think that hurts him at all. I don't. And it's not just the New York Times. This is remarkable. These numbers show that Trump is poised to do very well if things continue the way they've been. These are battleground states. These are states that really can decide the election. CBS had other bad polling news for the current president of the United States.
Now, part of the challenge for Mr. Biden here is that people are simply pretty pessimistic at the moment. 73% said that things are just going badly in America right now, and that's up from 65% at the start of the year. So voters just don't feel great about where things stand right now.
On ABC, a lot of people think that the America is headed down the wrong track.
George, voters are just plain frustrated across the board. 76% of adults in this poll say the country is headed in the wrong direction. Only 23%, less than a quarter of the country, say that we're headed on the right track. And the issues that are animating voters' frustration, it's almost unspeakably vast and broad. Economy, 74% of Americans say it's very important to them personally. 69% say the same about inflation. Those are issues in our poll that tend to favor Republicans. Voters say they trust Republicans more than Democrats on those issues.
Well, that it doesn't sound good, does it? Now, why is this important? I've thrown a lot of information at you, and I get that. But why is this important? It's because this is the New York Times we're talking about. This is an organ of the left. This is an article that will be widely read in Democrat circles. It will be widely read by Democrats across the country. It will be the topic of dinner time conversation. It will be something that will be buzzed about in Washington and every corridor of power in that city. They will be talking about this. And it will lead many Democrats to say, we cannot let this guy be our nominee. I bring you to your attention from the New York Post. Top Democrat strategist David Axelrod suggests that Biden should drop out of the 2024 race. The Democrat strategist credited with leading former President Barack Obama's 2008 victory has suggested that President Biden drop out of the 2024 election race after a damning poll showed him trailing behind former President Donald Trump. David Axelrod pointed to Sunday's polling in the New York Times that shows the president lagging behind Trump in 5 key battleground states. Axelrod wrote on X that the data will send tremors of doubt through the Democrat Party, do you think, and will create legitimate concern about having the president seek re-election. He continued, only Joe Biden can make this decision, he said of the president. If he continues to run, he will be the nominee of the Democrat Party. What he needs to decide is whether that is wise, whether it's in his best interest or in the country's best interest. Axelrod said there is risk associated with changing course now because so much of the primary campaign is already, taking place, and campaigns are a test of candidates. But he goes on to say there's a lot of leadership talent in the Democrat Party poised to emerge. This comes from the guy who was Barack Obama's political advisor for many years. He served at the White House. When David Axelrod speaks, you can be pretty damn sure this is also the opinion of one Barack Hussein Obama. And this is the beginning of a big shove. And I tell you, I've said from the beginning, I don't think the Democrats will allow this to happen. These numbers are got to be terrifying to Democrats, just as they are uplifting to Republicans. And they're not going to stand by and lose just because Joe Biden thinks he can make it. Somebody of significance will emerge, and Joe Biden will have challengers, real legitimate challengers in the Democrat Party. I don't think that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. I have never thought he will be the nominee. I don't think it'll be Kamala Harris. I don't know who it's going to be. But I can tell you this, Democrats and the power brokers of the Democrat Party, I said it before, I'll say it again, they are not going to stand by and let this guy lose. And he's headed for a big loss the way it stands now. 50 minutes now, past the hour, 4 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Following more information being released on the alleged images of the Covenant shooters' writings, as we hear from a Covenant parent, plus an update on the Israel-Hamas war as President Biden spoke with the Israeli Prime Minister today. Those stories and more coming up 5 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, we are just a few days away from the CMA Awards, November 8th. That's Wednesday, and they released the name of people who will present this year. And I don't understand some of these names. I mean, clearly, you see, big names like Bill Anderson and Sarah Evans and Lady A and Martina McBride. But what does Paula Abdul have to do with country music?
I
saw
the same
that.
thing.
Yeah, she's an expert, all right.
And it is interesting, though, that Nate Bargatze will be one of the presenters. This guy's on, man. He is just hitting it out of the park right now.
You know what it is?
Awesome.
They probably said, "We'll let you present it, but you got to bring that chair you stole back."
Because it is at Bridgestone.
Yeah.
Will they let him in the building? That's the question. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. I want to talk to you today about gold, which has been used as money for millennia. It is a tried and true store of value consistent across generations. Generational experts say that generational wealth has three components: land, art, precious metals. Well, land, that's expensive right now, especially with high interest rates. Art, do you know anything about art? I don't. But precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver are just practical solutions. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. Gold might be a thing you want to add to your portfolio. Do you have gold that was given to you? You're not sure what it's worth? You're just curious about precious metals and want to learn more? Well, gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going where I went, Nashville Gold and Coin. Listen, they are always available to discuss your options, to educate you on the precious metal market. And by the way, if you have old coins laying around, you think they might have some value, bring them in. They'll give you a good assessment of what they are worth. Nashville Gold and Coin. That's right. Make your first one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.